Hello and welcome to Season 3, Episode 23 of The Dive. I'm Kobe, joined by Azael and MarkZ today. Special Monday episode. Congratulations to us.
Special edition.
I love working on Mondays. It's special.
Yeah, I mean, so we aren't going to have a patch section. I think that's the only thing that's going to change, though. Everything else is going to be the same. And we're heading towards the end of summer here, so we should start our discussion surrounding MVPs, all-team, pro, first LCS, however you word those. First off,
I was like, do you want me to just do all of them and just word vomit for like 10 minutes? Or do we...
Spit them out, Mark.
Which one do you want first?
What you got? I want your third team jungler.
Now, Wiggly.
Okay.
Okay. That's
Yeah, all right. All right, I want your second team support.
Wait, this is hard.
Smoothie.
I could see Smoothie or like Biofrost or something maybe in there.
Yeah?
That's a good.
Well, because
Okay, let's actually start with the MVPs, though, because this is troll.
MVP candidates. I mean, you guys had something on the desk, and we can kind of start there. I think that you guys were going over some of the MVP candidates, as I believe you had Svenskeren, Bjergsen. You had, I want to say, like Doublelift and Core JJ, maybe.
Yeah, and then I think those were like the four we had.
Those were four, and then was there a fifth that was discussed?
No, we talked about why CLG might not have one, despite being one of the best teams. Yeah, they don't really have like that one standout guy. Which is kind of true for Team Liquid too, but they're also in first place pretty handily. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But those are the initial names we threw out like a week or two ago.
So yeah, that was a week or two ago. Do you think anything has changed first off, or is that kind of the candidate list that you guys are actually looking at still?
I think the dark horse of Meteos has dropped off. There was like a brief period of time when they were in first. It was like Crown or Meteos might get some votes, but now that they're kind of slumping, I think.
Yeah, 1 and 6 in their last.
Yeah.
So it also depends on your criteria, because a lot of criteria doesn't center around it, having to be one of the top teams, right? If you're like, oh, well, it's the most important player to this team that's struggling and he's just so much better than everyone else. And I think even in their losses, like the individual play from maybe Crown, I think a little bit less for Meteos now after the last weekend, but still, you could kind of float it given that different criteria maybe for Optic.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think it's a pretty hard argument for me. I just don't think they're doing well enough in the last weeks, and that includes, to me, Crown. Like even just thinking about some of their losses this weekend, it was like him getting caught and him, he was doing well individually and laning well. But, for MVP is like such a prestigious award that you have to be like incredible to really be considered. And I don't really have anyone outside of those like immediate four. It's kind of like off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of entertaining these other kind of criteria beyond just like the best player on the best team, because you just it's Doublelift again or whatever, it's Bjergsen again. I like when you have to be like, well, for what his team asked him to do, he did more and he had less stuff around him, so it was more impressive that they got first place with a worse roster. Like I think I like those kinds of arguments, but last split we had the top three teams. It feels like this split is probably trending that way again, so it'll probably be someone from one of TLC.
Let me throw out some more then, because I really like these angles. I wanted to spice it up a little bit. I'm going to throw out Froggen and Viper. Now, Viper is on one of the lowest ranked teams, almost last place here for FlyQuest. But every time it gets Riven, I got heart eyes. You see the ProView replay where he's actually so quick with the animation canceling, and I'm just like, oh, it's not, that's not an MVP award winning thing. but those are the types.
The Kobe Heart Eyes Award.
that's the Kobe Heart Eyes Award. But Froggen, maybe Froggen. The problem is, he has had some games where maybe was the Little Blanc one this split. Like there's some where he is set in a position to probably like hard carry Golden Guardians and kind of be the one that we're talking about. That's like way better than the rest of the team and like kind of drag them across. But they didn't quite do it. So he's maybe one that's kind of close to that, but doesn't.
He didn't have I don't think the LeBlanc one, but he had the Aurelia one.
Split,
He had the Aurelia one where he went to
Fabio.
got super slammed. And he's had a couple games where he's either gotten slammed like that or had just been like a non-factor. I feel like the MVP should be the guy who's like almost always winning a scene in the game, like you're saying, but also doesn't have these kinds of like super low moments, which for me, I would probably vote for Sven right now. He does get subbed out of a lot of his games, so it feels a little bad to vote for a guy who played like probably going to be 14 games this season or something. But every time he's in, he is so good.
And when they sub him back in, and you get the candid response from Reaper, where Azael's like, so why is Svenskeren coming back in? And usually there's this like, we're testing something else.
Champion pool.
Worked with Golden Glue really well. And he's like, you could tell he was like going to think of some other answer. And then he was just like, we want to win.
He's like, we need to win.
Reaper. Like, Spence back in. We need to win.
And that game versus TSM, both Blaze Olive and Golden Glue, who are on the desk, were like, oh, this game's boom. This game's super boom. And then, like, every time Sven just kept finding engages, they just kept gushing about him. So it's like when you have the other pro players all just like, I want to play with Sven. You know, like you get that effect where everyone wants him to be their jungler. It's like, okay, that guy might be MVP.
Yeah, and jungle is the role that's most polarizing, right? There's so much variance in jungle because there's constant decision making, all these different points especially early on in the game, where it becomes a completely different game based on just the individual choices of both junglers. So for him to have the consistency for this split, I think is actually crazy.
Yeah. I mean, he's been definitely outstanding. I do think it's like he's maybe the favorite right now. I think a lot of people have been talking about him, and I always think when there's multiple MVP candidates from one team, they're going to kind of cannibalize their votes, right? So if some people are voting for Double, if some people are voting for Core JJ, they're kind of pulling votes away from each other, and that does put Svenskeren in a pretty good position. Bjergsen has also been excellent, but TSM I don't think has looked as good, and maybe this is going to be something that is changing, in the last couple of weeks, and they'll really pick it up. But when I think back to the end of spring and, in their run where they were like 9-1 at the end of the split, like I felt like TSM looked so much better. And I think that, Bjergsen individually has still been really good, but things have not come together for the team. And whether you want to like put that on him or the whole team as a whole or coaching staff or whatever, it's hard to know. But there are some of these games where he's in a good position and they aren't able to close, right? Like even just looking at the other side of the C9 TSM game, the whole team was in a good position and they couldn't close. And at the end of the day, like if you're going to hold, a Froggen or whoever, someone like that responsible for not being able to carry that game, then you have to look at Bjergsen a little bit and say, well, maybe you should have been able to carry that game when you're 4 dragons up and 7K ahead and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah. All right. Well, guess the MVP votes not terribly changed from the last check-in, but we'll keep our eyes open for the next couple of weeks. Next one I wanted to go to is one that Mark is super excited about, the rookie of the split, which usually, because we have so few rookies, there's not a lot of discussion. But Mark,
I'm excited about it just because Kobe likes to argue about things, and I like to argue about things, and I know this is going to start an argument.
Let's get it.
So Kumo versus Fake God. Those are basically the two rookies people are looking at right now. Technically, Scarlet's in there as well, I believe. There might be one other, but those are the main two ones. And the argument that I'd make is I think Fake God's actually more deserving of it for helping the turnaround and all this stuff with a team that's struggling. And I'm not saying he's the cause of the turnaround. It's much more on Ryu coming in and amazing as well. But they win a lot with him. They're a legitimate positive win rate team making a push for playoffs with him in there when they were a 10th place team before. And I'm not putting all of it on him again, but Kumo comes into C9, and every time a rookie comes into C9, the whole team shifts their play style to accommodate that person. And they just play around him like crazy. It happened with Blabber, happened when Licorice came in. Didn't really happen with Azael, but he's a support. And now, again, they did it with Contracts way back when Contracts was playing. They tried to do it with Ray when he would sub in. And like they bend over backwards to make their rookies feel at home rather than being like, hey, you should.
And I think that's admirable, right?
I think it's the right way to do it. I'm not criticizing it. I'm just saying like that makes the players look a lot better than like Fake God comes in. It's like, you're not getting any resources. We're going to make sure Bang plays well. And like, so that's why I'm like, you know what? Fake God probably doesn't get enough credit. And Kumo played 3 Jace games. They weren't all great. He got a ton of resources in all of them and sometimes came out like completely flat in them. And then he had a great Aatrox game. I'll give him the great Aatrox. He got slammed with attention. They picked 3 losing lanes. And then he came back. And
so you are a true believer in the lose lane, win game.
Sign me up. I want that weak side player who's like, don't worry about me, guys. How's Bang doing? I want him.
It's definitely an interesting argument. And it's super easy to point at Kumo and be like, but what about these moments where he plays super well?
Yeah.
Like there are so many moments where they do stick in my mind of the first Jace game that he had, and then the last Aatrox game. Yes, the middle one, definitely a lot of improvements could be made in a couple of those games, but there are some big moments where like he plays really well mechanically, and then you're like, oh my god, that's so crazy coming from this rookie. And it's an individual thing, right? Yes, the team did try and get him gold early on, but in that moment it is just the individual performing. And then I think about Fake God games, and I have trouble having like recalling one of those moments, like picturing, that whatever
the
play.
Fake God flank.
I don't.
You don't remember those?
I don't know. If that's maybe a personal problem for me, but I can't like picture one of those big moments. The biggest moments that I think of when I think of Fake God are his tweets, which are hilarious.
Is that not factor in?
I've started multiple memes with the win lane, lose game, and the opposite as well, and tilting broken blade. I think he's a great contributor to the league. Huge entertainment value. And yes, Kumo only got these lane bully picks, right? Or got multiple Jace picks. And Niski even talked about it a little bit in the interview. He was like, yeah, he's great when he gets his champion. Mm-hmm. So like they're doing a lot of things to try and make him shine. But those things I think have worked.
So I think it's been a bit of a mixed bag with Kumo, right? Because they haven't won every game.
2-2.
2-2, I believe, with Kumo. So it's 2-2 on a team that is for sure better than 100 Thieves, right? And has been. And Fake God, it feels like.
All right, you gotta look up all the matchups then that if you're gonna go over.
So
these,
he played 3 Jace games and 1 Aatrox game. Even if you just look specifically at the Echo Fox game, he got an insane amount of help in that game. Was legit Camp 4 nonstop. They're chain diving.
Oh, so you might be 3-1. I might be
turret.
wrong. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's
3-1. He's only lost that
just
one.
the Echo Fox game then. But that one was like pretty egregious to me as far as the amount of help he got in a matchup that like was picked for him. All these dives, and he's not even winning the 1v1. Like he's not even ahead. So like I do think this is not to like dump on Kumo, but I actually am more on the Mark side as well, where I've been more impressed by Fake God overall, just simply because the amount of help he's getting, and when you're playing Jace as his early game bully, and you're still down in farm, in most of the games, even in his first 2 Jace games, on average, he was behind in farm while getting Camp 4 with an early lane bully. And I think that Fake God hasn't had these highlight moments that have stood out in the same way, certainly. A lot of people are going to look to the Kumo, like the 3 Aatrox Qs that hit smoothly over the wall. That was like super hype. That was super highlight worthy, and it's a really cool play. The Jace 1v1 against Impact, where he kills Impact, even though Impact could just flash Shock Blast instead of not flashing Shock Blast.
He has some good team fights too.
Tower. Like he's had some really big moments, but I do think it's impressive to see a player come out of solo queue and play academy for a little bit and then be in the LCS and actually be holding his own going even, because I think it's such a different style of game to play, especially when you're not getting a lot of jungle help, where you have to play like weak side of the map, like understand where the junglers are, to like not just be getting slammed. I think is pretty impressive. And I think that like I just haven't seen enough games from Kumo to be willing to say he's better when it's been 3 Jace games where he hasn't even been slamming with tons of help.
Yeah, I'm hearing arguments for why I should be giving extra considerations to Fake God, but you haven't made the argument of why Fake God is better. You've only made the arguments of why Kumo is not better.
I think the same thing with no help.
Well, I think it kind of goes back to the MVP thing we were talking about before, where it's like, are we just giving it to the best rookie that we think in terms of raw skill, or the person who is performing the best? And so, when he has a 2, 6, and 8 Jace game where he just dies in the side lanes over and over, but it's against Clutch and the rest of your team's winning, the same way that I'd be like, well, Fake God didn't get any help, went 2, 6, and 8, and they won as well. So, it's like, I think it is more comparable, where like you join the 10th place team and are helping drag them up, versus you join the first, second, third-ish place team and you're maintaining level.
This one still is close to me, because now it becomes are you giving the like you do the dirty job award, or like how well do you do with being set up well award, right?
But I don't think he's doing well with being set up, is my point. I think Kumo and Fake God are giving similar levels of performance. One is getting a ton of help, and the other is not. Kumo has had a couple flashy moments that I think are sticking in people's heads, and that does, I think, bias you. But just the games that have been shown, three Jace games where you're getting nonstop camp for, and you have a negative CSD that's not like anything to write home about. Where we're just slapping Fake God in there on whatever champion. He's played a bunch of different stuff, and he has a similar level of performance to me on a worse team without help. I think that's just more impressive.
I think you have some rounding errors in your similar level of performances, though. So
I'm trying to pull up the games.
Even like I'm just talking about like as far as like lane performance. Like their CSD, Kumo actually has a worse CSD than Fake God.
Yeah,
while
I'm looking
Jace.
at the actual like in-game performances, but the statistics of CSD is a very limited view.
I mean, so here, and he's playing 3 Jace games, so it should be skewed in his favor with Ken camped.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that.
That's true.
I think in terms of champions as well, like he's playing Ornn, he's playing Kennen, he's playing GP,
Aurelia, Aatrox.
Yeah, he's playing more champs. He's playing things that aren't always lane dominant. But he does have a lot of games when I'm going through here where he has 0 kills. He's like 0-4-5, 0-2-1, 0-3-6, 0-0-8, and you're like, all right, Fake God.
008 actually sounds pretty good. What champion?
That's his GP. Just
like
pew, 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 pew. Raise morale. Shoot him across the map.
Okay.
But I think he doesn't get help for the most part, which is like whatever. But you still want to see a couple more kills probably through.
I mean, honestly, I'm just trying to argue the other side for it right now because you're both going Fake God. But I think he does deserve credit, like Mark started out with. For the turnaround for 100 Thieves. Yes, amazing is on camera on a lot of their content of like really motivating people, and he's like a really big voice behind not just the in-game play, but the mentality of the team as well. But I think that all the pieces that did change deserve credit for this crazy turnaround, because 100 Thieves went from like nobody even wanted to touch this bottom 10th no hope team to
you guys bought stock
to up to I mean, me and Azael actually both did.
We knew okay. But the rest of the folks
but it's been actually a crazy turnaround. So as much evidence for each individual part, I think does deserve some credit.
And at the end of the day, I'm not trying to argue that Fake God is like the best top laner in the league. We're arguing for Rookie of the Split between 2 candidates, right?
Yeah.
So let's be clear here. I'm not trying to make my case that he is at the top of the league. I don't think he is. I just think that he is out of those 2 guys. To me, maybe had a bit more of a commendable performance. And, we're also expecting Cloud9 to have Licorice coming back in. And I think that, if Licorice comes back in this coming week and plays the rest of the games, it would also be really hard for me to vote for someone based on 4 games, right? For Rookie of the Split. I just don't think that's enough of a sample size where I would feel comfortable voting for them, even if they had 4 pretty solid games, unless it was like, oh my God, you hard carried your team for 4 super important games, and that's what got them to playoffs or something. It would just be really hard for me to vote for someone, based off of that sample size.
I think if we voted right now, I think I would cast my vote for Kumo.
That's fair. So, I mean, I think they're both reasonable.
It's super close.
Yeah.
The only other one is FBI rookie because he played in Oceania.
I don't think so.
Because he had experience in another league. Yeah.
It's really just, and it's Scarlet, but like 2 games, right? Again, I don't think enough of a sample size.
Yeah.
Sweet. All pro. Any considerations there? Have you guys thought at all about like maybe what your kind of like ideal team would look like then as far as all pro? I mean, Svenskeren, we're obviously assuming. Bjergsen, perhaps we're assuming as well. Like, is it just those 2, the TL bottom lane, and then based on just MVP candidates? Normally people I think would have like snap said Licorice. I don't know if they would as much now because Licorice has been out. I don't know if that really changes anything for you guys.
I think there's some interesting ones. Like maybe we should go for ones outside of top 3, top 4 teams because that you want to try and put up there. Is it a little bit more interesting, or do you actually? Because I don't think we should go down, every single.
I think Impact should be somewhere in the top 3.
Blah, blah, blah.
We don't have to.
But I mean, there have been some like I guess the standouts that I kind of talked about when I was talking about MVPs. Mm-hmm. This is the area where I could actually put them on one of the ballots, right? Maybe MVP is too prestigious of an award, but if I'm looking at top 3 mid laners or something,
3rd team,
Froggen does get very close in there for me. Those types of players.
Yeah, I think he's definitely worth a consideration at there. I think it's always hard to sometimes knock the guys down from the top, especially with mid lane when you're looking at Niski, Jensen, Bjergsen. I think that's who most people kind of snap look to. But I do think, Crown, Froggen perhaps can get some consideration depending on how last couple of weeks do go for their teams. If they're the ones kind of like pulling them into playoffs, that certainly is worth some consideration. I also think Hansar should be getting some consideration. He's actually been doing really well. I even think he may be performing better than Froggen. Like his lane performances have been so consistent and so dominant.
Yeah, it was just that Renekton game, I think, recently was the only.
That was against TL? No. Who was that against?
I'm trying to think.
I definitely remember.
I don't know.
Yeah, there was a game he got slammed on Renekton.
Oh, okay. Either way, I mean, he's been very solid.
Oh, I know.
Someone
he did fine on Renekton.
Okay.
We're thinking of someone else.
He ended it fine, but the early lane phase was pretty rough.
Okay, maybe.
Okay.
But I think but I agree. Like there's only been
yeah.
some. I think that Hansar has been super good. Yeah.
Someone that is on a top 3 team and will make the ballot is Niski, but I do want to talk about how high he'll go. Just because when I was doing the tier list ranking for mid laners, as I was going through more and more stats, I was like, holy. He's like on top of everything. He's like highest KDA, most kills, doesn't die that much, has a ton of assists, good laning stats. He has the highest forward percentage. He's always playing super far forward. He has high jungle proximity, so they are playing around him a little bit as he's playing super aggressively. But I still think he plays the map pretty well. So like while he is very aggressive in his own lane, he also goes other places. I'm like, I don't really have anything bad to say about Niski other than like I feel like I see him make bad plays sometimes when he's going aggressive.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like, that'd be like saying, oh, Caps makes bad plays sometimes. Like, I'm not saying Niski is Caps. I'm saying that play style, though. The play style, you have to accept the bad with the good. Yeah. Thank you. Please, people who will watch this, understand I'm not saying Niski is Caps. Just
name the episode.
Niski is Caps.
MarkZ. Niski is literally better than
when
Caps.
You play aggressively, you have to accept the good with the bad. So like those bad plays, I feel like maybe I'm tunneling too much on for why I'm not putting him first. I don't know. Is there a world where you guys ever put Niski first for mid laners?
I think it's worth considering. I mean, I haven't dug into the stats as much as you. I think from the eye test, he's been very good. I think that Bjergsen and Jensen feel more consistent to me. I don't know if the stats really support that, but like I feel like when you're watching those players, there's not as many times where you're looking at it and you're like, ooh, that looked bad type of thing. But maybe that's me just like, kind of catching those and having them stick in my head more than they should. If his performances are actually that consistent, and supported by the stats, like I think he's been really good. I definitely thought he would be top 3 for me, but I hadn't put a ton of thought into who would be my, number 1, number 2, number 3.
And both Golden Glue and Ablaze Olive, I think they said Bjergsen and Jensen were their 2 votes as their like number 1 best mid laners in the league. As well, from 2 guys that have practice against them.
Yeah, and he was also backed up in a lot of games by the MVP candidate in Sven. So I think it's interesting. He had one. He was a whole kill and assist higher than the next person. It was like 1.9, and he was like 3.2 or something for most kills and assists at 15. So he was like slamming early games.
So speaking of that, then I mean, if Bjergsen is an MVP potential candidate, and you're saying, maybe some of these other guys are in the mix, then, does that mean that Jensen or Niski or perhaps both should even be getting considered for that?
I mean, this is where like my own argument starts to fall apart. It was worth like all these stats. I'm like, wow, it's so good.
Got him.
But then what you're saying about like, Double If and Core JJ, who gets the votes? I'm like, Sven. Sven gets my votes between Niski and Sven. And I feel like that's what would hurt him from a MVP type discussion. And even some of like the first team votes potentially, whereas like Bjergsen has had junglers swapped around him. They've done a bunch of weird stuff with play styles, and I feel like he has consistently put forward stellar performances. Sometimes he hasn't carried quite like he should. That Rumble game was atrocious, and it's literally a day ago, so we're all still thinking about that. But he's had insane TF games where he roams all the time and like hard carries his team. So he still kind of feels like the favorite for me.
I think one of the most difficult ones is going to be bottom lanes.
Yeah.
Because after Double Lift and Core JJ, I think that's like the super easy part.
Then in the top 3, they're not as hot.
It gets quite rough. And I know that there have even been some posts on like social media and stuff where like Double Lift is like answering on his stream and like he's like, I mean, there's like Sven and
he Biofrost
kind of
good.
yeah, and he kind of wanders off. Like he picks off, maybe one support or one marksman from some team or whatever, and then he's just kind of like, eh.
Yeah, it's actually pretty hard when you think about it, because I think Sneaky and Azael haven't been great this year as far as like they've had some good performances. It's been weird to me, and it's like when you play Sonateric and that sort of thing, you're supposed to lose. But I've always felt like, and I'd have to dig into like actually comparing the stats to the average, but it always feels like they lose by a lot more than you're supposed to, or a lot more than I'm used to seeing with some of the other lanes, and that has been a bit of a struggle. Sven and Smoothie have had some good games, but for the most part, it feels like they play fairly defensive and like they have a really strong team around them. So like there hasn't, like, it's not that those guys shouldn't be candidates for top 3, but yeah, I definitely agree. It doesn't feel definitive.
Yeah.
I think I would want Biofrost in my top 3 supports.
Yeah.
I've liked him a lot. And Doublelift and CoreJJ are my clear number 1.
I think Biofrost has actually been super good.
Yeah, Biofrost would probably be my number 2. CoreJJ, Doublelift are my number 1. And then beyond that, I really would have to spend some time actually thinking about it, because it doesn't feel.
What about Stixay as the other part of playing with Biofrost? I think that
he's been really good.
He's definitely improved a lot. Has he improved a lot to being for sure on your list, as sure as Bio is?
I think maybe not quite as sure, but I think both of them had a big bounce back, because I thought they were actually pretty bad in spring. Like they were good last year, and then they for some reason really fell off, and I thought they were laning pretty poorly. They have been playing well, and one of the things that also works in their favor, I think, is that a lot of the CLG win conditions feel like they're playing through them. When they beat Liquid, it was very much about like the Siege comp that they played with Caitlyn Lux. They slammed games with like Sivir Yumi. They've played a number of different styles. They've been playing these kind of like mage pokey support things that have been fairly lane dominant. It hasn't always worked. When they played their Zyra game as like a counter to Sonateric, I can't remember who that was against, but that went pretty tragic. That was against TL as well. Okay, so that was their other game then that they lost to them. But overall, I think 6A has been good. He's certainly, I think, in the conversation for top 3. I think I would have him above like Sneaky for now.
I do have Sven in there. But what about this? What about Bang?
So
he's gotten a lot better. He's playing way more aggressovely.
They have positive stats.
Do you weigh are you weighing all the games equally? Or are you doing like looking?
So you got to do all of summer. This is the summer.
So it's all of summer.
Award,
then I
right?
think no. I think the start was too bad.
Yeah. Fair enough. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting question, though.
I think it's close because they could very easily make playoffs. They're one game out right now. A bunch of teams are struggling.
They were so bad though. Before they made that swap, he was like averaging 1,000 gold down or something.
He was terrible. But we're at a really weird point in the season where a number of things that were kind of assumed would hold are not. Like Optic is slumping, Golden Guardians is slumping, and then you have FlyQuest and 100 Thieves starting to climb up. So we're right at that weird inflection point where you're like, you can start making these arguments, but you really don't have a basis for it. Like if you give me 3 more weeks of good Bang, like hard carrying, and they climb into playoffs, and he's their primary carry threat, it's like you probably should, but like right now it's ridiculous.
A big if, though.
Yeah, right now it feels ridiculous to say. And same with like Turtle. Like if they turn around, and we all know Turtle's a good player, and if they turn it around and he's one of the big carries in the next 3 weeks that gets them into playoffs, like he probably did more in that shorter window to get his team into playoffs than maybe someone like, I don't know, if Arrow stays around and somehow Optic holds on to their spot, like it starts getting tough.
Yeah. But yeah, I think my top 3 for ADs probably right now would be Doublelift, Stixay, and Sven. And then Biofrost, CoreJJ, and I'm not really sure who my third would be for support.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
I think that's pretty.
I'm pretty much on the same page. It's one of those ones where it's like you go through a test, and sometimes you're like, that question's tough. I'll get back to it.
Yeah.
That's what this is.
All right, let's move on to the playoff picture then, because we have some spicy results here. We still have to figure it out as far as the last couple of weeks, and I like that there's going to be so much movement. But do you feel like you've solidified more of your opinions of what the playoff teams are going to be?
No.
Mark,
I just mentioned that whole inflection thing. Yeah, I don't know. Because like Golden Guardians was supposed to lose to CLG, and that would have tied them versus 100 Thieves and Clutch. And then I would have been like, oh my God, they're slumping. They're going to get knocked out. But then they won that game. But then they didn't win it convincingly because Biofrost like turbo-inted. And then you're like, well, what did I learn? And I don't know. I just don't know right now.
Yeah, I mean, overall, though, it still feels like Golden Guardians and Optic are on a pretty heavy downswing.
Yeah.
And you know, and some of these teams are on a fairly big upswing. I think that, you know, despite the fact that TSM hasn't played, you know, as well as I think they played in spring, and CLG has a little bit more shaky recently, I still think that the top 4 are going to make playoffs, right? Like, I think we're going to see Liquid, C9, CLG, TSM all in playoffs. I would be really surprised if any of those fall out. I do think that there's a pretty decent chance that Golden Guardians and Optic do fall out. At least it's like, you know, those are the ones that I could see happening, right? 100 Thieves has been playing a lot better. I think 100 Thieves has easily played better than both Optic and Golden Guardians in the last couple of weeks. I think, you know, FlyQuest even, you know, and Clutch, like those teams are all, I think, fairly comparable. My feeling right now is that 100 Thieves is going to keep going up and take one of those playoff spots. And then it's going to be kind of a battle probably between the Golden Guardians, like Optic, Clutch, and FlyQuest for the final spot.
Yeah, so it's interesting your point about you're feeling the Golden Guardians and Optic are on a kind of free fall right now.
Yeah.
Their schedules are more difficult than the other teams that you mentioned also, because both Golden Guardians and Optic have to play all of Team Liquid, C9, TSM, and then Optic even also has to play CLG. So literally all of the top 4 teams, and then they play each other.
So I would
Golden
say
Guardians and Optic have to play each other.
I bought Optic stock for that reason because these games were supposed to be easy. It was Clutch, Echo Fox, 100 Thieves, and I think maybe there's one good.
So you're a poor man in this.
I am
now.
I am broke. I am.
You can come live with me.
I'm applying for some stamps or something. I don't know.
You're applying for stamps.
yeah, food stamps. I'm broke.
Well, in that case, then I mean, like I didn't even realize how bad the strength of schedule was looking for those 2 teams. Like, I'm willing to bet then that both of those teams don't make playoffs. If it like I would have to actually look at the strength of schedule for the other teams that are right behind them. But just based on that, like that is a brutal strength of schedule. They have not been playing well. I could easily see, you know, you losing to every one of those top teams down the run, and then it's, you know, 100 Thieves and Clutch and those, and like even like FlyQuest only have to pick up a couple wins to actually catch up, right? Like Clutch and 100 Thieves are only 1 game back, so that's getting pretty dicey.
Yep, I think even FlyQuest, they are a game back of 100 Thieves and Clutch.
Yeah, 1 game behind them,
so
behind playoffs.
I mean, as crazy as bad of a start as they had, I even have I can see a way where they climb their way back into. I mean, if Viper's playing well again, he gets some Riven games every once in a while.
There's been a lot
Wild
better.
Turtles, you know, he has the highest damage share, I think, definitely of any AD carry. I don't know if I think it might also be any player in the league. So he's definitely like doing a lot of the DPS work for FlyQuest. So yeah, I mean, even they could try and make a run up. So it's definitely going to be super, super scary for all of these teams as we get to the last couple of weeks, because until the last moment, there's so much movement that can happen.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy. So I want to. So since we're talking about FlyQuest, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on Santorin, because I feel like he has been so absent this split. It feels like even the games where they're doing well, like it's rare to see him even pressuring lanes or ganking. Like he's picking the Elise and Rek'Sai and stuff, and he just AFK farms. And like, what's the deal?
I wonder how much of it is champ pool related, because last split there was a fair amount of Nocturne, and that is like the ideal Santorin champ, it feels like to me, where you can farm to 6 and then like press R to go to lanes, and it's more streamlined, I think, than like. And then the game also, I think, got more aggressive. You know, there were other aggressive junglers, like level 2. There was a ton of them. But outside that, you know, I think with Sejuani's and Trundles and it more being about like team fighting, but a lot.
But he's playing early game junglers.
So
yeah, I don't know.
He's playing Rek'Sai and Elise and stuff.
For me, it's not a champion thing, because last split, like he was playing, like he had Lee Sin games and stuff where he was popping off and he was getting a lot of stuff actually done early.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, he's just playing worse this split.
It's just weird to see such a remarkable difference, right? Like in the negative way. He was the only guy outside the top 3 to make all pro.
Yeah,
right?
he was so good in spring. And jungler, like I said, like jungling is super volatile position and depends on a lot of factors. But yeah, it doesn't seem like he's had the same impact, especially in the early game, that he did in spring. So that's definitely a thing. I did check in on the Wild Turtle stat, by the way. The only two people ahead of him on damage share for teams are Saligo and Scarlet, which are substitute players, which aren't in anymore.
There's one game sample sizes, baby.
Other than that,
the Scarlet Vladimir game. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I mean, it's definitely it's weird. Like I can always understand it more when it feels like people are trying for the same things but it's not working out as well. Like you're just not playing as well, or you're not executing the same way. But it almost feels like a lack of confidence, and maybe this is partially due to FlyQuest struggles and stuff. But when you're not even attempting the ganks and not even looking, it feels like not even really looking for them when you're picking these early game junglers. But that is something that I think FlyQuest for them to actually realistically get back to playoffs, we kind of need to see Santorin picking it up too. Because while they do have maybe an easier schedule than some of these teams, they still have CLG, C9, and TSM left in their final 6 games. Those are really hard. And then you still have, you have Clutch and 100 Thieves, who would be opponents who are above you in the standings and going for playoffs as well. So, I do think FlyQuest would have to have like a major step up to be able to make that run. And it's a run that no one has ever made, I believe, from where was it? Like
2-7.
2-7. Yeah. No one had ever actually made it back to playoffs before with that, because you've always needed at least 8 wins. And we even had Optic missed last split with 9 wins.
Yeah, I don't think that I have pretty low hope for FlyQuest, because while they have picked up more wins and have looked better, I mean, I still don't know exactly what their win conditions are, because like, yes, Viper Riven can just murder people sometimes and win you a game, but that's not like a play style for your team. That's like this one guy did something. Whereas like with 100 Thieves, for example, like I know now that they mostly play through bot lane, and their top side's a weak side player, and Ryu roams and is very active on the map, and like they try and snowball like their bot lane a little bit. Like, I don't know, like what is FlyQuest? Like what are they to you?
I mean, that's an interesting setup right there, because they're playing each other this weekend. How do you think that they would match up if they were directly across from each other? Because I would say FlyQuest have the option of trying to attack Fake God on the top lane, get Viper ahead, snowball him, get split push pressure, and Wild Turtle and JJ have been good in 2v2. So
you would think that, but Viper actually
has the gank.
Viper has the lowest jungle proximity of any top laner. They don't play around him. They give him Viper, and they give Viper Riven, and then they're like, "You're amazing at Riven. You don't need our help." And then I don't know what they do. Like, it's really weird that I don't like. I would agree. Like, Viper's your win condition. Give him the Kumo treatment, the Licorice treatment. Pick him what he wants and play around him. But they don't do that.
To me, they're basically just a team fighting team. Because I don't actually think, like, I would be really curious to see like jungle proximity for Santorin compared to other junglers, but I don't feel like he's very active at all in the early game, so he's not playing heavily. It really feels like to any of the lanes. But when I look at some of their successful games recently, it feels like they all basically farm, and then they're like, all right, time to fight at the dragon. And they group and they try to execute at the dragon. And if it works, it works, And they did that against Golden Guardians, and they were able to have, this great package play from Pobalter, knocking FBI into Santorin, and they kill him. And like, that game to me seemed like a FlyQuest, like a prototypical FlyQuest win, where it's like, not too much happened. Then you grouped up and you team fought pretty well, and you won the team fight. And then not too much happened again. Then you team fought again. You won that one too, and you got the Baron. And then okay. And it kind of feels like that's what they're doing, because it doesn't feel like they have like a super clear plan of like hardcore playing to one side of the map, or picking a weak side of the map who's going to play defensive and super dominant in another lane. Like, they generally just seem to go for fairly meta picks, fairly vanilla stuff, barring the Rivens and that type of stuff, and play towards team fighting.
Yeah, I think that's scary in a league where a lot of people have stronger, like Clutch has a stronger identity, like they play weird stuff that's really aggressive. And, like, I just don't feel like confident in that kind of win condition where it's like, we just hope nothing happens, like, and to be also on that strength of schedule topic, like they don't have an easy road. Like, a lot of their wins were against Golden Guardians and Optic, who are slumping, and an Echo Fox. And that was like your 3-game win streak that they had. And now you played Team Liquid, and you're going to play a bunch of the other actually top
PSM,
4 teams.
C9, CLG.
So their strength of schedule is basically as hard as Golden Guardians or Optic. maybe a little easier, but then you have to get 2 games more than they get, which I feel is just a little bit too much when Clutch is okay and 100 Thieves is surging, and it just feels like too much.
Surging is definitely a meme now.
Yeah, I love that. So I say everything is surging. It's like, oh yeah, they were surging.
Box on the 1 game surge.
Yeah, I love it.
Watch out for those power surges. All right, would you both predict 100 Thieves in that matchup then?
Yeah. I think they've been playing really well, and the fact that they, actually had another pretty solid weekend after, like, it could have just been a blip in the water if they did their 3-0 and then they lost to 2 good teams and they never won again. But they came back and they had another strong weekend. So I'm actually pretty bought into the fact that they have made real improvement, and that they're, a legitimate team. I don't think that they're a top of the table team, but I think this is a team that could definitely make quarterfinals.
You're more excited for Clutch than for FlyQuest then? Because the back-to-back Kiana games for DeMonte, and his Kiana game in second attempt was actually really good. Yeah. And I had some really good ultimates with it. Seemed like he has a very strong hold on the champion already. And I kind of like that. I want teams especially that are at the bottom standings, to like keep reaching for new stuff and get wins that way. I thought that was very admirable.
Yeah, and I think they're the team to make the best use of any of these kind of patches that introduce a lot of new champions. Like, screw it, break out Alawi, one of you guys. Like, you have Huni, who wants to play aggressive. You have, they
even got Cody's son on the.
Yeah, Cody's getting in on it.
Lucian lane for an aggro.
And he also played Zed randomly. I don't want more of that, but I like the general feel.
Wait, you liked it, but you don't want more of it.
I like the idea of like Cody's getting in on the experimentation and the fun. That specific one was a little.
I didn't like the Sona game either, with the no upgrading support item at all.
All right, you know what, Cody, stick to Zaya.
Well, you know what? You just say you liked it, and now
he's supposed to be the stable guy. They have this crazy top half of the map.
Not everyone could be crazy Kobe.
Yeah.
But he just said he liked it.
Yeah, I was lying to myself.
He changed his mind.
I thought more about it.
He wanted to like it.
Lucian is within the acceptable spectrum of like.
That's the crazy pick he's allowed.
Yeah, he's allowed the Lucian. Maybe like a Callista if it ever looks good.
Oh,
I'm fine with aggressive marksman.
Yeah. So Callista has been getting picked in LCK and some LPL even as well too. So maybe we get to see some. I think there's a lot of supports right now that pair really well with it.
Yeah,
definitely.
Should give Clutch some tips. What about the CLG C9 game? Dun dun dun.
This should be pretty important. I'm really excited to see if Licorice is going to be back. Right, that has been I think on a lot of people's minds, and I think originally people were assuming Licorice will be out for a week or something like that, and then he'll be back. But he's taken a couple weeks off. I think it's important to take that time off for your health if you need it. I actually talked to Jack this weekend, and he said that he actually hurt his wrist rock climbing. So like it wasn't computer related, I guess. Or that could weaken it, and then maybe the rock climbing triggered it.
On the one hand, I think that's good to hear. Because a rock climbing wrist injury, I would think would be less.
I'm not sure.
Repeatable, less repeatable.
Yeah.
Well, because you just stop rock climbing.
RSI, right? Repetitive strain injury, which is what Licorice was talking about in his posts. Like I've seen him for like the last year and a half or two have those like things on like all the time everywhere he goes. So it's probably both.
Yeah, I don't think it's just rock climbing.
Yeah, it's probably both.
And so like I'm sure it's like, well, my wrist hurt. Well, don't go rock climbing then, dum-dum. And then he went rock climbing and made it worse or something. So like I understand where Jack's coming from a little bit.
It can also be tough because it's one of those situations where, like I can see the point of view of, okay, like if it's sore, maybe you should like strengthen your wrists or something. You should work on that. And like years ago when I had a lot of back pain, they're like, well, go work out your back, and then that actually helps alleviate a lot of back pain. So I could see that thought process. But it was kind of an interesting conversation just talking to Jack, because it was the whole idea of like, he was saying, well, he already feels like he's fairly strict with the team as far as like what he allows them to do, and he was like, I don't know if it's a good idea. Should I let them go rock climbing? But he didn't want to be too strict, and it kind of brings you into this idea of like, how strict is reasonable in the world where there's multi-million-dollar investments in these teams and multi-million-dollar sponsor deals associated with the success of your teams? Like, are we to the point now where it's like, nope, You can't go out. Nope, you can't go climbing. You're not allowed to go skiing. You're not allowed to go jump out of an airplane. You can't, like there's things where with professional athletes where they have all these different activities that they're essentially banned from. Even like off-season sports or playing other sports are often banned from, and these types of things to like prevent injuries and protect the team's investment. Do you think we're kind of like at that point now in esports?
I think it's interesting. Because we also had this discussion way back when Riv first started with his motorcycle.
Oh yeah.
And we started to be like how advisable, like, are we gonna let the casters like do like dangerous activities like that? Mm-hmm. So I would err on the side of
mode of transportation.
Yeah. I would err on the side of like we're not quite to the super strict level yet, but
I think it can depend because, like, with the example of off-season stuff, like, I know a lot of teams are not happy with, like, the NBA summer leagues or, like, the NBA teams are not happy with those kind of pickup summer games and league things that some of them do because they risk, like, I just signed LeBron for $1 billion.
$30 million a year.
Yeah, and then he blows his knee out dunking on someone in, like, a high school gym, and you're like, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So, like, I know that was a situation when those summer leagues started picking up a lot that people weren't comfortable with, but it's out of season and technically you can't stop them. But like once you're in season, it's like you are really stopped from doing anything that is dangerous on your body. So like, yeah, you can go out and enjoy picnics and stuff like that. Like, like
sit in the park.
We're not saying you can't do anything, but you can't do this very large spectrum of things. That's not okay. So like, I know that I'm pretty sure they're not supposed to go, wow, I forget what it was. There was an example I heard before that someone was
for pro sports or esports.
For pro sports, where it was a basketball player and they didn't want him to hurt his knee or his leg. So there was something like swimming is one that they're like, oh, always go swimming. Swimming is great. Swimming's super encouraged for like if you want to work out and do something fun.
I've heard people being banned from golf, from doing other pickup sports.
I've heard a lot of other pickup sports you're banned from. There was a really specific one. I think someone liked doing gymnastics. I think that's what it was. There was a basketball player or something that liked doing gymnastics and he got banned from it because it was like, we don't want you to like land and screw your ankle up or something.
I just like the image in my head of LeBron and Shaq just sitting down at a picnic in the park on this like tiny little picnic blanket and like pulling some sandwiches out of their little picnic basket. Like, oh, yum, yum. Having so much fun here out at the picnic.
It's the only activity remaining to them.
Yeah, maybe it was volleyball. I remember there was something that one of the players like enjoyed doing on the side on like when on his off days, and the team made him stop doing it.
I mean, there's all kinds of restrictions, and not that maybe everyone adheres to them, but things along the lines of also, like curfews are certainly a very real thing during the season and on road trips and all this sort of stuff. Some teams try to restrict their players from drinking or doing any of these things, like adhering to strict nutritional codes and all these sorts of things. That it's like, I don't think we're at that level yet, but it is interesting. Like if I'm paying Doublelift $1 million a year, and my team's success is completely dependent upon him, at what point is it reasonable for me to be like, all right, Doublelift, you can't play any other games, or like your wrists are like your money makers. Yeah. You're not allowed to do any of that other stuff.
I mean, it's something that is very real in a lot of things, not just other sports. Korean pop stars, I know, like they cannot drink, they cannot, have boyfriends even or girlfriends. They cannot, there are so many restrictions
they have that,
based on
that's for their image. It's like you're not allowed to date anyone because then our millions of fans won't be interested in you.
Yeah, I mean, their reasoning is like you don't have all complete focus on on your work. But we know what the real reason is. But it's the same idea of this person is such a valuable person, and you have so much of an investment in this person. How much do you get to control of what that person can do? And it's not like direct control, but it's like, well, if you do these things, then I will no longer, pay, you won't be employed. And so then the pull becomes like, how many restrictions are someone like Licorice or Doublelift willing to accept before they say, fine, fire me? Another team will pick me up and they will let me rock climb. They will let me go out. They will let me, something like that, right?
Licorice joins Echo Fox after irreconcilable differences over rock climbing.
And then there's got to be I know it's way more complicated with contracts and everything like that, But those are the types of things that then start to come up. And then you're going to have these lawyers going over the contracts at the beginning like, oh, no, Licorice isn't signing unless he gets 3 weeks out of the year of rock climbing time. Or
yeah, totally. I mean, Jack even said like he feels like they have a fair number of restrictions already. So he's already like, try to take him out for nice dinners all the time and try to do all these nice things, because he's
treat him right.
Exactly. Like because he's saying like, I know like we're pretty strict. So I try to make sure that they get to have a lot of fun too.
Take him to Wii Spa. That's safe. take him to relaxation things like picnics and Wii Spa.
You keep coming back to picnic.
I only came back once. You came back more than me, I think.
Mark, you really we should go on a picnic. I want to go on a picnic with Mark.
Can we do the dive live in a picnic?
It actually sounds delightful.
We'll get a bunch of like Zoom audio.
We're going to need a lot of sunscreen though, because we burn easily.
I went. Yeah, you saw.
Anyways, that's a good summary of the CLG C9 matchup, don't you think?
Yeah.
Do we even talk about the matchup?
Azael started it, and that's what we got to.
Because I remembered I wanted to talk about that story, and I was like, oh yeah, C9. Oh yeah, Licorice. Oh yeah, Jack. And then
so anyways, what's going to happen is they're going to go out to a picnic.
Yep.
And then
Licorice is going to see if he can convince CLG to go rock climbing and hurt their wrists.
Actually, it's funny because I know a lot of the other well, actually, never mind. Darshan left. He was the main rock climber, I think, for CLG.
I think there's been a fair amount
of
rock
tragic.
climbers. Yeah.
Honestly, though, let's actually look at the matchup then, because this is literally our last thing to do.
All right. I think
it's the C9 CLG.
I think it'll depend a fair amount on if Licorice is in or not, because
he lost all his energy. He was so happy talking about picnics. Now he's like, all right.
I think the
Licorice could be there. Maybe he won't be there.
Rune, as much as he's been good, I'm not a big Rune fan. Like in terms of how good I really think he is. I think
Azael is.
I know Azael is. We're on opposite sides of that. I think he's fine. Don't get me wrong. I think he's an upgrade over Darshan and all that stuff. But I don't think I've seen the upswing in CLG come from him directly. Whereas like Wiggly's playing a lot better and their bot lane's playing a lot better. And, they've figured out their drafts better this split. And I think all those things are true. And we also have, Rune coming in and doing better than Darshan, rather than Rune being the first thing I want to talk about with CLG's upswing. So when you put in Licorice, who was kind of the hands down best top laner in the league prior to stepping out, if he comes back in and they're still playing around him and they can slam Rune, I think that's enough to blow the game open, though I'm not as confident in Kumo's ability to blow the game open through topside, and I think the rest of CLG matches up pretty well versus C9.
Yeah, and I would say even the bottom lane I would give the favor to CLG with how they've been playing recently. So I think that it might be this shift in the map where CLG bottom side, C9 top side maybe. And I would also give, probably, given the recent performances, Cloud9 advantage in mid lane. Power of Evil hasn't really been the same. At least early game, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of control there. He still does, scale on, decently on, whatever he's playing. And it might be a better meta for him with the Azir Corki. But they first, our blue side banned Azir and Corki, which seems so crazy to me because I was like, well, those seem like
blind.
Those seem like very good, Power of Evil style, high damage later, scaling up. So that maybe was a little bit curious to me. And I think
that was the LeBlanc game, right?
Yep.
Maybe it was just
and they really wanted to do the LeBlanc
because he did have a great early game. They just kind of threw the game.
Yeah.
Well, it was back and forth.
Actually, they threw it super hard.
Like
so.
he had like 20 stacks on his Magi. He was
but he was actually down 20 CS and he was like 1-1. I think he died once to a gank and then roamed once.
He was deathless till really late in the game. But
no, he was 6-1 and then he died and lost his stack like much later. He played a great mid game, but his early game he actually lost laning phase pretty hard and then came back and then Biofrost threw it. Super big throw. But I think that's kind of always been the player. He's never had good laning stats like ever, and he's always had insane like DPM and kill participation, kills and stuff. He's just never been a lane dominant player. So I feel like if he can just kind of sit back and absorb Niski a little bit, and hopefully Wiggly can stand up to Sven or Blabber, whoever's in, then I do feel like a lot of it will come down to that top lane.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the thing is like for CLG, I really think it's as much as about their individual laning and stuff as it is about their game plan. Because I think a lot of their wins have actually been through really intelligent drafts and game plans where they have a very clear win condition and they've like established a way to siege. The the Caitlyn Lux with Victor mid, and they drop Gravity Field one side and the Luxie on the other side, and they have traps across, and they couldn't engage, and like these sorts of things, I think, are often how they win the game. I think if the only way you guys see C9 beating them is like by blowing up top lane, I think that's fairly hard because Ruin to me is like so flexible because he is able to play so many different champions, right? He has like 9-10 different unique picks, something like that. He is not amazing, but I think that he has filled the role that people always felt like they wanted from Darshan, but Darshan didn't actually fill as well, right? Like he is the top laner that I think is super flexible and doesn't need a lot of help and can like not lose you the game.
I know Azael's type.
What?
The top laners that don't want any help, don't
Fake
get any
God,
help.
Ruin.
You got this whole Fake God thing. It's like
I love all.
I want the downtrodden top laners. I want them to take the scraps.
My type is actually the shy, who doesn't get any help and just wins the game every game.
Yeah. Okay, but the key is you don't want to give shit to your top laners. Then turn it into gold.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I just think that that's true of every position, right? And I think that this is a guy who personifies that pretty well in the league, and I think that's one of the big reasons for success. Like Darshan, I think had good moments, but Darshan often was also like there was lots of games where you could point to and be like, well, that's why you lost the game. Darshan did some shit where they lost you the game. Doesn't really feel like I've noticed a lot of that with Ruin. I feel like he's fairly consistent, and I think that is super valuable, especially when yes, it is maybe some top lane bias, but like talking to a lot of top laners in the league, very few people think that they can actually convert top lane leads into victories these days. And I feel that I have seen that on the LCS stage a lot. Almost every game where it feels like one team has top side lead, the other team has bot side lead. I wonder who's going to win. Well, it's the team with the bot side lead every single time. It feels like that is the case, at least in NA. And I think that, that can certainly be attacked as like, well, you guys just aren't good at closing out the game or don't know how to split push or whatever. And that I think that's fair. But at least in North America, that seems to be proving to be true, that topside leads are rarely like converting into wins compared to bot lane leads. So I think that in this meta, like I would rather have the guy who's going to AFK and go like even in every lane top and have the really good bot lane.
And I don't think Ruin has even AFK'd and gone even in lanes or whatever and been the one like on the receiving end. I think there are a lot of games where Ruin made individual strong plays to gain advantages for the team, right? It hasn't just been like, weak side.
Yeah, I don't think the idea is that he is this. I don't think he's like Fake God, where it's like he's weak side all the time and kind of falling behind. Like he gets help sometimes. They gank for him. They do a lot of stuff.
What about the Spellbinder? First on Keenan in the last game that they had. Didn't
he get Gunblade?
Yeah, second, whatever. Before Zhonya's.
Oh, so a lot of players are actually delaying Zhonya's on Kennen pretty late. Because a lot of players, not for Spellbinder, but usually Morelos is coming in second or something along those lines, or even Deathcap before Zhonya's. Yeah. I personally don't like it. I don't think it's worth the trade-offs because I am seeing too many team fights. And this is something I've seen across the world where people skip their Zhonya's and then they run in and sweet, you have more damage, but you die before you get your full ultimate off. And like Kennen ultimate, yes, it is tons of damage, but it's also a zoning tool. And being able to zonies out of that, they can't just like then run through you, right? So it's like you're creating so much space in the fight that I almost always feel like Zhonya's second is right. But
I mean, yeah, my take on it was if you're going to go that route, you have to have very good coordination with your team. You cannot have a mistiming on your engage. Like you're basically taking out all of the margin for error. Like I can see it being super good, right? And you have that scrim game where you get the engage and boom, Kennen is in there with the Spellbinder popped and the Gunblade popping off. He just melts everyone. You're like, oh my God, why would I ever go Zhonya's? I could just kill them all, right? But then you're removing so much of the margin for error. Like, oh, you were a half second off on someone else's positioning.
Or someone CC'd you before you got to flash in the middle
of
the game.
Or you were waiting in the brush and all the other team came there and the rest of your team was not there. So you get annihilated in
I feel like
5 seconds.
I agree for the most part. Like I'm a huge fan of Zhonya's, but in certain situations where like he got a fair amount of help in that game and they kind of blew his lane open with the LeBlanc and some roams, I believe. So he's in a side lane versus Aatrox and I think it was like I want to actually become like a big threat on my own, not just like be
then I'm saying you have to have that good timing with your team. Then you have to execute. It just puts more pressure on.
Right. I agree. But then like the way that game broke out is like, well, then they just like they want to split the map. They want a 1-3-1. Then they group up a little bit too much, and his TP comes in late, and Biofrost is already dead. And then the enemy team has Baron, and then you're just 5-man defending Baron the rest of the game. It makes it look terrible. Whereas like if they just didn't throw that one fight with Biofrost, and they're just splitting, and this Kennen is more annoying because Zhonya's does nothing in a split push situation for the most part, unless like you're trying to 1v2 or
I'm not like super. I don't super agree with that. Like Zhonya's when you're going up against Renekton, it was actually Aatrox. So
right,
Aatrox and Lee Sin, right? When the two people that are going to come to you are physical damage, I actually feel like it's just really strong.
I agree, but you've already won. Like they blew that game open through topside. Like they were 7.8k gold ahead. They were slamming. It was a lot of the goal was on the LeBlanc, but I think the Kennen at that point in the game was also very strong. And I can appreciate wanting to force the one because that was their win condition was 1-3-1. It wasn't group up and team fight. So I can appreciate not going for the item that makes your team fight better to try and achieve this other win condition more. But I mean, it's all kind of speculation because it wasn't like, oh, they grouped up and he started dying in team fights too quickly. It was like,
of course. I mean, it's a minor point. Just in general, I like. It's not that these other builds are horrible or anything. I just am a big fan of Hourglass. Or at the very least, if you're going to delay Hourglass to third, I like when people buy an early stopwatch, right? And there's so many games where people do neither, and they have their Morellos and their Gunblade or whatever, and they don't even have a stopwatch, and you go into a fight and you die, and it's like, it's just not worth the cost. It's just so valuable, I think, to have that just for the potential in a team fight that can decide a game a lot of times. Like those 2-item mid-game team fights can mean Baron, right? So I just think it's worth the investment to at least have a stopwatch.
All right. You ready for some Twitter questions then?
Sweet.
I actually sent out a tweet this morning right when we were about to start this because it is a Monday episode. And I got one I did really like from Shawnee G13. If you could send 3 teams to Worlds from North America, excluding TSM, C9, and Team Liquid, which teams would they be?
Well, CLG's in there.
Yeah.
CLG's in there.
I guess it's CLG, 100
teams
Thieves.
in the
If
world?
we're saying we think that 100 Thieves is gonna be top 6 and Golden Guardians and Optic are going down, I'd almost say like CLG, 100 Thieves, and then who's our third? I don't know if you guys disagree with those two.
Are other regions in the world doing this too? Or are they going up against IG?
I mean, does it matter, right?
You're sending them to Worlds, all right?
Because part of you would almost want to say like team like Clutch.
All right, there you go.
I mean, I don't think we have to all agree because...
Well, my reasoning is just like, okay, CLG is
pick up the new champion, and they're gonna win some games.
Yeah, they'll be fun. They'll be interesting. Because if we're just gonna get slammed, I'm like, I don't want to send Golden
every
Guardians.
Team in the world is sending.
Yeah, like if I would send CLG because they're our best bet. Maybe 100 Thieves because they're doing better. But then at that point, like,
so you're just skipping right over Golden Guardians and Optic.
Well, right, because I don't think
they're just.
I think they're on a losing streak.
Kind of boom.
I think they're kind of boom, and I don't think they bring anything unique to a world stage. Like I don't think when you go up against the best teams in the world, that playing a style that is pretty standard and not
We're
even
looking for budget Cloud9s here, Kobe.
Yeah, we're looking for budget Cloud9s. We're looking for misfits. Like these teams that can't play standard and win.
What about Viper then? Send Viper's ass there. Put that ribbon on.
Put him on another team, then do it. I just don't think if a normal play style is getting you 500 record in NA, it's not gonna do it at Worlds. I want something fun and interesting and can maybe Kiana some asses.
Fair enough.
Is that true? Even if this is the world where Riot is like, all right, you top 3 teams that they qualify for Worlds. Just kidding. 4, 5, 6 goes.
Voted by casters.
Yeah. So G2 and all them aren't there either.
Yeah, then maybe I'd be more interested in the Golden Guardians in that situation. Just because I think they're probably better than Clutch.
Okay. I can agree with that 3. What about you, Kobe? Got a mix up?
I mean,
you sending your boy Viper?
I want to
make the call, Kobe. It's
I also still want to send Optic. Like I don't know. I don't feel like Optic's as boom maybe because I don't know if I was just optimistic, but I know. But looking at those games, I was like, man, those look like some easy solves. I feel like Optic can get back to their.
They're playing completely different than how they were winning.
I know.
There's no more Poppy. Their bot lane's losing.
They're not splitting.
They're not splitting with Crown.
But I was like,
Meteos is actually ganking top. No. He was on Poppy on an island.
But exactly, I'm looking at those games. I'm like, well, that was what they were doing before when they were losing. Then they changed to have Crown split pushing, and they won a bunch of games. Just like do that again, make the same correction. I feel like Meteos and Crown.
All right, so you're sending Optic, and you're becoming the coach.
He's sending Optic, FlyQuest, and what's your third? CLG?
CLG.
All right, sweet.
All right, next one.
Sure.
2 goofs, 1 gaff. Pretty good name there. At Freak, Kobe, and Azael. Sorry, Mark. This was from last week, I guess.
Well, let's go find Freak.
Is transitioning scrim results to the stage a problem for every region or just North America? Do other regions do something to help with this? What do you think would help North America with this? I don't think it's personally a North American problem. I have heard a lot of players from multiple regions that's on stage. It's usually one of the most common answers is like, dang, we're doing so well in scrims. Do we just need to translate that to stage performances? And to me, maybe this is like a deeper seated problem, which I have felt maybe more affects North American teams, is that in scrims, they try to win the scrim a lot of times when we go to international play, rather than maybe more of the other regions teams try and, just test something or learn something from that scrim without focusing so much on, we are winning all of our scrims, we feel so good. So it's definitely very murky water there, I think.
The one I would largely agree. The one exception I can think of is like that TSM 2016, 2017 era when they were representing us at all international events, and everyone would say that they're pretty good, and you'd hear good things about their scrims. They just would never translate. Mm-hmm. And every time you watch that team play, they felt like almost like, terrified to play the game, and they would just be so passive and so reserved. And I think maybe that was the one example where it's like it feels like the pressure of the moment is getting to this team. But other than that, I think every team feels like they play better in scrims than they do on stage.
Yeah, kind of going along your line about maybe playing sometimes too much to win scrims. I don't know if this is just a North American thing, but I talked to Grabs after Riff Rivals, and it doesn't really matter what team he was talking about, but he was talking about scrimming a team, and he was saying that they set up the scrim block with them, and the other team literally played the same 5 champions in every single game of the whole scrim block. And, and he to him, he just thought that was absolutely a waste of time. He's like, what are you even doing? Right. And he said when they got to like the 3rd game, they locked in the exact same thing for the 3rd time. He said he was actually pissed because it was like this idea that you're just wasting our time. Like we're supposed to be learning here and experimenting and trying things and figuring out what's the best and blah, blah, blah. And like, that's how he saw it. So I do think at least, for that one team, that is an example of like, hey, you had an opportunity to play against the MSI champions here. Maybe try some stuff, see if it works, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of people get into this mindset where, and I can understand it, where it's like, well, we want to work on our shot calling or our objective control, and we don't want to mess around with picks right now. We're trying to work on a different part of our game because there's not just the pick ban phase. And then sometimes that probably locks people too much into like, we're playing G2, they'll punish all our mistakes, let's play our normal stuff and see what they punish kind of thing. And then you don't try any new champions. And I feel like that can happen pretty easily for teams where you get locked into that mindset of trying to improve this one thing and ignoring pick ban.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely the case. I think that's going to do it for this episode of The Dive. Next week, we will be back with the usual Wednesday afternoon because these guys won't be doing Twitch Rivals next week. So until then, we will see you guys next week, and be sure to tune in for LCS Week 7. It's going to be a good one. We got some big matches coming up. I will not be there. I'm going on vacation. Peace out.